Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch What, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore reference 26170 ST, 42 millimeters in stainless steel. This is the model often known as the Black Themes. You can see it, and if you like, buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com. And if you like these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now, on my wrist, the Black Themes in stainless steel with a full stainless bracelet wears with immense presence. Almost 15 millimeters thick, nominally 42 millimeters in diameter. It's actually closer to 50 if you include the crown and the crown guards, and slightly over 50 if you include the lugs themselves. Now you can see the watch stands tall and proud on my wrist. So this is not one that's going to play well with a dress cuff or a long sleeve of any kind, but you'll also note that it has unbeatable presence. Even compared to the 45mm Jaeger-LeCoultre that I was wearing earlier, you can see this 42mm offshore really holds its own. And that's one of the characteristics of an offshore in terms of how it wears. My wrist is 6 1/3 inches in circumference, but I can tell you that on the wrist this feels almost like a 47 or a 48, and it looks the part. Royal Oaks always wear larger than their stated size, and on a full bracelet that's even more true. And that's one of the real unique features of this Black Themes, that it does have the complete steel tapered Audemars Piguet bracelet. Now, the original Royal Oak of 1972 was a sort of cross between a dress watch and a sporty integrated bracelet active lifestyle model. Let's not call it a sports watch, but it was definitely in that vein by the standards of the time. The 1993 Royal Oak Offshore was a different kind of watch, a hardcore sports model, but generally seen on a strap, not a bracelet. To take the integrated bracelet concept from the original Royal Oak and pair it with the offshore case creates a truly imposing form. Contiguous, unbroken, it's a monolith that weighs about 250 grams, so we're talking nearly 9.5 ounces. Very hefty, but also very comfortable, because the standard of finish on the Audemars Piguet bracelet is of the same degree that you would expect on the standard Royal Oak dress watch. The underside has broad channels between the links, and you can see these spacings between the links on the underside. The tolerances are very tight on the top, but underneath it's spaced out so that it will not pinch skin or pull hair. Well done. Likewise, the standard of finishing, all of it by hand, allows this to be just as artistically executed, to the same degree of detail and quality as the dress version of the Royal Oak. You can see the small sliver of polished hand camphor on the edge of each individual link. You can see the tolerances between the plots, the intermediate links that join the major links, incredibly precise. And you can see that the bracelet is entirely tapered, not one or two tapered links after the lugs as most sports watch bracelets feature, but entirely tapered right down to the bottom. This small degree, this almost imperceptible incremental diminishing of metal being honed in the end by hand by a craftsman who ensures that the tolerances are almost too small to perceive individually, the step down appearing to be more of a curve than a stepped series of notches. Beautifully executed, the same degree of attention to detail is evident in the case, where you have the polished octagonal Royal Oak bezel, where you have the grained tops to the bezel contrasting with the polished stainless steel screws. You can see the classical elements that Emmanuel Geit designed into the watch in 1993, really bringing out the machine inside, turning the sealing gasket of the bezel from an element mildly suggested on the original Royal Oak to a prominent part of the watch and an integral feature of the styling, creating a partition between the bezel and the case itself. And the case, like the bracelet, gorgeous contrast, the brushing, the camphor, the taper of the camphor as it approaches the absolute flanks of the watch, the brushed flanks, and of course the polished outer circumference. You can see that polished lip to the case back, even as the inner case back itself is brushed, contrasting once again with polished steel bolts. This is a case study in contrast, and nowhere is that more true than the dial, and that lies at the heart of this watch's nickname, Black Themes. You can see the sub-registers that are a monotone black to match the dial are the key to that nickname. You can see that, yes, the nitrile-covered crown shoulders as well as pushers do match the tone, but the action is all in the dial, where the dramatic contrast between the calibrations of the dish tachometer scale at the outer circumference, the Arabic applied white gold numerals, the white chronograph seconds hand, and the small dashes on the subregister really pop against the black megatapisserie background. Now at this angle in the light, you can see the texture of the megatapisserie. It is the signature of the Royal Oak Offshore, bigger, bolder, and blockier than the hobnail of the standard Royal Oak Offshore. This defines the essential look of the watch, and in combination with the all-black aesthetic with the white highlights, this one is a really striking timepiece. Also quite versatile, because on the bracelet you have something that can jump into the water with 100-meter water resistance right off the bat. There's no need to swap out the hornback alligator. There's no need to throw on a rubber diver strap. With the metal, you have a look that's versatile, formal enough for the office, but also tough enough for fun in the sun, or the water if you so choose. Now the classic chronograph arrangement is at the core of the Offshore's DNA, and unlike the original Royal Oak, it was designed from the beginning as a complicated watch, as a chronograph. Now those elements remain intact. What makes this one different is that from an arm's length, if you don't see the pushers, it doesn't read as a chronograph. It has a more unitary, integrated, coherent dial because of the monotone subregisters. The lack of contrast there makes the watch look bigger, more imposing, and more impressive. And speaking of the chronograph, the movement inside is Audemars Piguet's in-house 3126 with the Dubois de Praz vertical clutch chronograph module. So the base movement, which does represent an upgrade from the original JLC 889, features a 50-hour power reserve compared to the 38 to 40 of the original JLC, a full balance bridge that's more shock resistant with a Gyromax style free-sprung balance for still more shock resistance. Bidirectional winding, it has a gorgeous engraved 22-karat winding rotor, and I will mention, in addition to its increased power reserve, its increased durability and resilience in the face of shock and sports watch insults, it is a more beautifully finished movement than the original JLC. And by that I mean that the standards of the anglage, the standards of the engraving on the rotor, the detailing on the base plate, the polish on the screw heads, everything is executed to a higher standard, because JLC understood in the late 2000s the Offshore had already moved into a higher echelon of horology, and in order to further differentiate itself from its great modern rival, the Hublot Big Bang and later the King Power, AP really had to live up to its reputation as a Big Three high horology house in every respect. The in-house movement, and specifically its finishing standard, are part and parcel to achieving that ideal, and this watch definitely achieves it. Now, you can see everything about this watch speaks to the history of the Royal Oak, the finishing standards of Audemars Piguet, and perhaps a best of the best combination of Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore styling cues. The all monotone black dial, the Arabic numerals which bowed later in the watch's life, the integration of the in-house movement, the integration of a bracelet and a rare appearance on a Royal Oak Offshore, all of these elements make this watch an absolute pleasure to behold and an impressive sight on the wrist. It's also a pleasure to wear, because you know when you're wearing this watch, you're wearing something that really is as well built, as finely finished as its legend. And make no mistake, it is a legend. The Royal Oak Offshore is a modern icon and unarguably the standard bearer for Audemars Piguet in the 21st century. You can see it, and if you like, you can buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com.